Hello and welcome. I'm Shadow of Shadow Gaming, bringing you Programming with Shadow, episode number 50. In today's video, we're going to look at the range operator in C#. We've looked at it here and there, a little bit here and there, but we're going to look at it a little more today and play around with it, and let's see what it can do. One other note, I've upgraded the Visual Studio 2026, so everything will look a little different. It should feel about the same though, so we'll see. But I've upgraded to it. I'm using .NET 10 now. I don't think we'll see any major difference here, but I have updated. So we'll go ahead and get started though. So I've got us a little project here. So we'll go ahead and delete the default text. Let's start with writing a method. So we'll do static void print. We'll just call it print. We'll pass in an I enumerable of int values, and we'll do that. So console.writeLine and then string join, and we'll put commas in between. I think I just want commas, so we'll leave it that. All right. So we're going to use that to play around with some arrays. So range is what we've seen recently. So let's give us some data. Int. Yeah, we'll do int data equals 1. There we go. Perfect. So there's just some data. And in fact, let's add a 0 there as well. That'll make it so it lines up with the indexes, so we can see how they actually work around. So let's do the first one. So normally, well, there's what we're going to see. But var data. Let's just say var data. I will say int data at index 5. There we go. So there, what we will expect will be at index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We should get 5. And if we do a CW, we will see 5. There we go. So that's normal indexing. So we're indexing into the array. This is using an indexer. We've seen them, we've created them, we've used them. So it says, okay, go into the array and get a position. So we're going to call it a slice. And what it is it comes back as an int. Slice1 equals data. Well, there you already see what it's going to suggest, but we'll do 0 dot dot. We'll leave the end. And now if we print that, I'm going to have to turn it off just because it keeps messing up my outputs. So there we printed up the entire array, but it's from the slice. So that's just saying get everything. We can do this though, and let's say we only want the first 3 elements. Now, if we run this, 0, 1, 2, that looks like the first 3 to me. So what this syntax is, it gives us a range. Seeing if it gives us any helpful hint here, but I don't think it does. But either way, what this says is starting here and going through here. So start at 0 and go to 3 places. So I guess length. If the actual docu actually says. It probably does somewhere, not on the page I'm on though. So what it does though, it basically gives you a range, and you can think of it as this isn't count rather than it's the end, but it's exclusive. So the start's inclusive, the end's exclusive. So we want 9 or value 9 here, the first 9 values, we could do this, but we're not going to get the first 9 because we're going to be off by 1. Yeah, off by 1. So to do that, you actually need to go one place beyond. So what you can think of is, in mathematics terms, you are doing something like 0, 9, that, or 0, 10, that. So you're starting with the first value, but the end gets cut off, and that's what's actually happening. So just remember that the start's inclusive, the end's exclusive, and you'll be on a good spot for these. So at first it doesn't seem that useful. So that's getting them all but 1. You can do it like that. Now it's getting all the elements from data here. Let's say we don't want the first position, so we can start at 1 and go all the way through. And now if we run it, now we cut off 0. There we go. If we only want the first, or we want 2, 3, and 4, we can do something like that. Here, let's kill the comment. You can do something like that. So 1, 2. So if I wanted, what did I say? 1 through 4, we would do 5 here. There we go. So that can be really useful, and I personally find it fairly readable. So you can use that if you would like, and it does the same. You can get that other ways, but I find this to be generally better. So let's look at something else. Let's say so there's range, just very general. There's also an index of. So index, let's see what 0 does. I think 0 fails, right? Nope, it takes them all. Good. Okay, so 0 says give me the end minus, or give me all the elements basically. If we do 1, it says okay, give me the range 1 through the last element. So it cuts off the last element. So let's see what happens if we do this. And here it'll be an int rather than this. And it just needs to be console.writeLine. So now this should give us the 10. So this says get the last element. And it does. You can use other values there too. Like if we use 0 here, that doesn't make any sense now. Unhandled exception, index was out of bounds. So what happened there is we said grab the last element, or grab the element at the last element plus 1. So that would be the same as saying data.length, grab the element at data.length, so how long the array is. That should give us this similar error. So you can use that to basically say start from the end and count up. So 1. Say we wanted the third from the end, we could do that. Give us the 8, and it does. So we can use that instead, and that can be useful as well. You can also use them in conjunction. Let's say we want all the middle ones. Let's say we skip the first 3 and skip the last 4. So what we can do there is we can say that's a 4, and we can do 3 dot dot. So now we need to make that a slice again. So there, this should be, we start here, and then we take 4 from the end. It should be these values, if I counted right. Very easy to get off on 1 by 1. Go back to my print method. Very easy to get off by 1 here. So there. There we skipped the first 3, but yeah, I probably should have kept that as 3, but that is what I'm specifying. We're saying start here, go to the 4th element. So this one's 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice it is exclusive, so that is there. So technically that would have been a bug, and I would have actually wanted that. Should debug. said. But yeah, there we go. There's the range and index. So we can do something more though. Let's do this. Let's say index end equals this. Now if we pass this in here, we should get the exact same thing. And we do. So what those are is the top of this index, and it's a struct. Struct's basically just a class, but there's some difference there. And we'll probably look at it in more, but they can be more efficient for some stuff, but you can cause yourself problems as well. But in this case, you're passing in numbers, and they get converted to a struct. You can do it the other side as well. Index start equals 3. There we go. Just like that. And that way you can actually assign values there, or do stuff more legibly than if you had just did some math here. You could do it up here if you needed to. You can use that to control your slices into an array. I'm doing array here. We could make this a list of int, and I believe this works fine. That's why I put IEnumerable here, but I think we'll get the same thing here. Let me make sure. I know when it first came out, I don't think list actually did work completely the same, but yeah. So list, so I believe list works as well. So let's see. If we look at end here, let's see if there any value. So it has a value. Get offset. So let's see what that does. Is from end. Okay, so as a value, get offset and a is from end. Is from end tells you if it's a this. So what we should see is console.writeLine end is from end. So this one should be true, and then we should get a true and a false. And we do. The other value there was get offset. Okay, so you tell it a length data count. So I don't think that's what we want. Start dot get offset data dot count. I've never used this, so take that for what it is. There may be a use for it, but there we're saying it's the 8th position from the start, which correct. And the other one's the 3rd, which we know is correct. Okay. That's all it's doing. You give it a length and it tells you how much from the start or end it is. That could be nice, I guess. I've never used it before, but there's probably some use of it. That's the index. So you can also do this though. Range equals start end. Now if we do this, we'll also see it's the same thing. So range is what's actually the entire thing, and we're just controlling the start and end points. So we could do this too. Do it like this. You could do it more the usual way we would do it. There you can do it. Start and end. And that'll be the same thing. And it is. So there's just a little bit of playing around with the range and index, and using them you can do pretty powerful adjustments on data structures. If you've ever done Python, I think it feels fairly familiar to it. Been a long time since I've done Python, so I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it works very similarly. The range has a start and end, so you can know them. Get offset and length. So it tells you how much the range goes, I guess. So let's try that one. Let's see what that does. So console.writeLine. Range dot get offset and length. Let's put that into a variable. Var. We haven't seen these yet. These are called tuples. We may have talked about them very briefly, but here we'll do var test equals range dot get length and offset data count. So it gives us an offset and a length. So what we can do there is we can say var offset length. So we'll say offset length. Let's see what we get. So we're expecting the offset to be 3 and the length to be 5. 3 and 5. Okay. So yeah, that gives you what you expect. Once again, I don't think I've ever used that specifically, but this is, we've talked about it at least once, but this is a tuple, so it allows you to return 2 different things, and you can access them sort of like this. There's other ways you can do it. I could have done that test like I did but first, but then you have to know test dot offset and test dot length. So you could do it that way as well instead of the way I did it. The way I did it's called deconstructed, yeah. So this should be the same thing, 3 and 5, and then array. So yeah, so there's just a little more. Just check if there's any other interesting methods. No. Okay. So there's basically though what you can do with a range. So let's see. It looks like there's some static methods too. Let's check them. So range dot start at. So basically that gives you a range that's like range start at start, yeah. So that's the same thing as if we had said new range so that should be the same thing as if we said start dot dot. But there will also be an end at then that does the same thing. Range dot anything else? Nah, that looks like it. Okay, so there's the range. Let's just make sure index doesn't have anything nice like that too. From start, from end, so same thing. Yeah, nothing particular. Okay, so there's the what you can do with this range and index, and we can play around with them. I've been using an IEnumerable list or an array here. Also works with strings. String text equals that. We can do this as well. Actually, don't know what that's going to do. Let's see. So 0, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's going to grab world. So let's just run that and show that world. So you can do it with strings as well. This is equivalent to text dot substring. Yeah, and it's going to be that 7, and then length. I think it's just that. So 7 to the end. No, we want to be the. We'll do text dot length -1. I think that'll do it. So let's see if we get the same thing here. You can already see it's giving me a suggestion. Okay. -1, -7. There we go. I needed the -7 because I'm not starting at the first position. If I had been starting at 0, it would have been fine, but because I'm not, I need to consider where I'm starting at. If we look here, though, I think if we switch to a range operator, we get the same thing. And to me, I've always found substring to be difficult because I tend to forget that. I don't know why. This one makes sense to me. So maybe something that comes up or not, but to me it makes sense, but maybe it doesn't to everyone. I'm not sure. There's those strings also have these operations. You can do the same thing. You can play around with index and range. You can specify them like this, however you want to do it. Yeah. So let's move on a little more. So back up here on I'm just going to remove this. Back up here, let's convert this back to an int array. Now these can go away. All right. So when you do the range, one thing to keep in mind is that it creates a new array. So if you're in, when you consider your memory, here we have an array of this, and then here we have an array of whatever the range was. So these values, the first 5. So when you create it, you are allocating a new array, so that can be a thought. And there's actually better ways to do it. We haven't looked at it. It's called let's see, span of t. Do this dot. Do that. Or dot span. There we go. Now if we make that span of t, int, do this. Yeah, I can't do that. Do I was trying to do it so I can print the string with the comma. We're gonna have to do the entire thing if we want to do that. We'll just say console.write. Here, we'll just do for each foreign values. Yeah, we'll do that. All right, so now let's run this again, and we should see the same thing, a little formatted differently. The difference here is when we create that, or the span here doesn't get created. Sorry, about to lose my voice. The span doesn't create a new array. Instead, it's a little more efficient, so it doesn't actually. So it's just looking at what values you have. You're not actually creating new memory. So that can be useful too. We'll look at that in the future, but I'm not going to touch on it any more than just to mention that there. So, oops. I'm going to do this. All right, back here. All right. Let's see. Anything else interesting that I should cover? I guess again, it's easy to get off by 1. What we can do here, we could do data.length plus 1. Now we're off by 1. Out of bounds. Here, it works. We can do that if we didn't want to use our in syntax. That's the main concern, though, is anytime you're doing edges of array, it's real easy to get an off by 1 error. if you're on any of the programming jokes, a lot of times that's one of them. There's like 3 types of error, or there's 2 hard things in programming. Naming things, something else, and then off by 1 errors. And notice there was 2 things. Some of them jokes are funny like that, but yeah, let's see. I guess let's just we have our example here. Let's adjust this just a little bit. Let's do this. Let's say for some reason we need just the first 3 elements. How we could do that. So we want just the first 3. What we could do there is we could do it like this. We could do dot 3. That should get us the first 3 elements. Yeah. Okay. So there. So another way you could do this, let's see. I think I can just pass this in. We'll print data dot take. Take 3. There we go. So this is back to using that LINQ thing we mentioned last time. So what we should see here is that these 2 should be the same. So that we're doing basically the same thing. So here, I replace that. Those 2 are very equivalent. So this is using the thing we mentioned before called LINQ. LINQ does an extension methods, and it does it to basically you give it an IEnumerable and it returns an IEnumerable having performed some operation. In this case, we took the first 3, and that's the exact same thing we're doing here. So we'll start looking at LINQ in might be next lesson. So just a little show of what it can do. You can do it in another way as well. Let's do let's say we want let's say we want these 3. So with that, do the range, all we have to do is adjust here, let's undo 3. So let's see. Let's say we want 3, 4, and 5. So to do that with the range, what we could do instead is we can do starting at 3, give me the next 3 values like that. So with this, what we could do here is we could do dot skip dot skip skip. Okay, nope, that is wrong. Let's see. Let's do it like that. Let's skip 3 places. I don't know where I'm trying to think. Something I've done recently did something more like the other way, and you just build it up rather than doing it too. It wasn't length though. It might have been something else. Okay, let's see. So now we need to skip 3 though. So now these should be the same again. They are not. Okay, Control C. This one that was broke. All right, our range doesn't give us anything, so 3. Yeah. 3 dot dot, and that's saying we want the same position. We instead want let's do this. We'll do start value plus 3. We want 3 values like that. Let's do it like that. Let's see if that gives us what we want. 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Let's make sure the LINQ works the same. Control U. There we go. Notice that this one, I would argue this one might be a little more readable, although this one's probably a little more performant. There's something to keep in mind. So there's a little more LINQ for the future. Here, let's do one that's harder for LINQ but easier for this. So let's do it like this. Let's say we just want the last two values. And do that. We'll do it like this. Start the top. So for LINQ, I think this will see. I actually don't know what a good way to do this is right offhand. So I guess let's do it like this. Let's do skip. That's like the opposite of what I want. Let's do it like this. We'll do skip. Let's do data dot length minus 2 dot take. Oh, wait a minute. I bet take last is actually what I'm looking for. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that is easy. So we'll do take 2. All right, so I think those will be the same. Let's test that. Oh, okay. Oh. Take class. There we go. Okay, so the LINQ does have a nice way to do that. So I figured it would, but I wasn't 100% on that. So take the last. Okay. So they're just comparing that. So now we have data at 2. So these two are equivalent as well. In that case, this one might look a little nicer to me actually. So might have to consider which one looks nicer, what your performance constraints are, and think about that through different thoughts. Well, I think that's really all I was going to actually cover today. Yeah, I think that'll do it for today. So just do a recap. So here we just did an introduction to range and index operations. We also looked at LINQ just a little bit, but we looked at range and index, and index is range and index are a way to slice. This is called a slice operator. By the way, I don't think specifically, but it lets you slice data, arrays, lists, strings, and lets you slice them in some way so you get only what you need. You have a start and end to the range. Index can start from either end. You can start from the front or from the end of whatever your structure is, your collection. Range, you can. The important thing there is off by ones, remembering that the start is inclusive, the end is exclusive. So keep in mind that as you're doing arrays. So that can help make sure you show what your point is, and we'll see in upcoming videos that LINQ can do something similar, like as we've seen here. Take last two there probably actually makes more sense than from end. Yeah. In fact, this one wouldn't work. End would need to be 0. Make my print case here actually work. So here we should see these two are the same. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to cover though. So you can use them different ways. Or maybe if you were maybe if you were reading in a lot of text, maybe like our last week we had done a simulation for a like we had a list of movies and would watch it. Our CVS file had a header in it. I think we used LINQ there, but we could do that to say skip the first one, so skip the header line and keep going. That might be a way to use this, play around with this more. But yeah, that's ranges. They're not really that complicated. If you've used, like I said, Python, I believe works very similarly. Been what? It's been 2025. Been 7, 8 years since I last did Python, so I may be wrong on that. But I feel like it did ranges very similar to this. Yeah, yeah. That'll do it for today. So this has been episode 50. A little bit shorter, but good. A good just introduction to the range and index and looking at what they can do and how to use them a little bit. And you can use that to make what you're trying to do clearer. I guess that's the point. If you can make it clearer what you're trying to do, that's probably a better thing. My example is the string or replacing a string substring call. I find the range operator to be a lot more readable than a substring somehow. I don't know why, but I do. That's the goal here of a range operator. It's not really adding anything you couldn't already do. It's just trying to make it clearer and easier to do that. So we're going to call it there. So that's going to be all for today. So this has been episode 50 of Programming with Shadow. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful rest of your day.